on now. So to raise any questions, just type in the chat box, and we'll kick it off from there. Also, too, we've got a Q&A at the end, but obviously feel free to put your questions in at any time. I'll be moderating them, and if they're on point, we'll be mentioning them during when David and Vanessa are speaking, and also myself. Also, too, again, we're going to entertain all the questions at the end as well. So just be wary and obviously still stay with us throughout the webinar and obviously enjoy. Obviously, being a Monday, start of December, everyone's quite busy, so we want to be able to make sure that we, get the most out of this webinar. So before we kick it off, I'd like to do the acknowledgement to country. I'd like to acknowledge the people who are traditional custodians of the land. And I'd also like to pay respect to elders, both past, present and emerging, and extend my respect to other Indigenous Australians present on this call. As you know, the First Nations people of this country, they've been looking after what the sustainability efforts, and obviously they've got years and years of education and knowledge around that. So, we're very lucky to be taking some learnings from them and obviously adopting it to what we're doing here today. So what I want to do is quickly just to go through the program today. Obviously, you got myself. I'll be doing the introduction, kicking off for a little bit. Then obviously we're hearing from Vanessa Cullen, Forward Thinking Design, which obviously is on the call. Obviously we go over to David. He's going to be speaking a little bit about what Global GreenTag have been up to, what's new and what they've been up to. And obviously myself, I'll come through and speak a little bit about Aspire for those who don't know. And a few little things we've been sort of focusing on in the short term and obviously long term. And also too, we'll be taking some questions at the end, but again, feel free to put any questions in the chat and we'll go from there. So to kick it off, I'd like to ask Vanessa to unmute herself and go from there. But again, for those who don't know, Vanessa's been obviously in the area or in the space, circular economy space, sustainability space for a very long time. We've been sort of working closely on a few other projects, and it's my privilege to have her on the call today. So, Vanessa, take it away. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Cameron. Can everyone see the slides? Just checking in. Yep. Great, fantastic. Okay. So yes, Forward Thinking Design has been around for 2 decades, and we're a certified social enterprise. We're certified with Social Traders. FTD Circular is our circularity innovation project. So when we talk about FTD Circular, we actually talk about the fact that this is an ecosystem. So we have many partners that we work with, some of which you'll meet during the presentation today. So essentially, Forward Thinking Design's background is in built environment. We started out in fit out design and then went into built environment strategy. And being a social enterprise, we've actually taken a circular approach throughout our entire lifetime. A lot of our clients are charities, and so we've always designed out waste. We've always tried to repurpose as much as possible, specify from sustainable sources, you name it, we've done it. So a lot of the learnings that you'll see today come from that background, and also we've entered into the digital sphere, which I'll also cover as well. Okay, so what do FTD Circular and our partners offer? So back in 2019, I started to hear about these new words, circular economy, and that's when I realized actually this is what we've been doing for the last 2 decades. But I also heard a lot of people saying that there wasn't enough data around what the waste streams were that were coming out of built environment and infrastructure. And so what I thought was that this is a digital issue. We need to digitize materials in order to understand those waste streams. And then from there, I thought, okay, I need to create a software program that allows us to create building as material banks. So a way in which we could create a register of different materials, furnishings, fixtures, plant, all these sorts of things. And then if we could create these registers, then we would be able to see what's coming into buildings and what's going out of buildings as well. So that was, I guess, sort of my starting off point. So on a page, I designed this piece of software, went out to a number of developers, and they said, this is very sophisticated. You're going to need a few years and several million dollars, which of course was not part of my intention. So from there, I went looking more broadly to find a software company that we could actually work with. And what I realized was building as a material bank actually relies upon the DNA of asset management. So if you look at what asset management traditionally does, it's all about capturing assets and inventory, so materials, objects, etc., onto a registry, and then being able to trace any transaction of those items throughout their life cycle. Also to be able to plan maintenance of those things to extend that life cycle and gain the most value out of them. Now, typically traditional asset management ends at just saying, well, we've retired the asset. So it doesn't typically explain how that's been retired, and it doesn't look at sustainability and circularity. But that's where I thought, well, this is what we're adding on to this. We're going to really focus on the end of life, sustainability and circularity. But in order to do that, we have to intervene at the very beginning as well in terms of our specifications and traceability of materials coming from the source into the built environment and then being maintained throughout their life cycle and then coming out the end. So really what I guess I was looking at was how can we add circularity to traditional asset management, and by combining the powers of the two, create a whole new platform that could enable people to do things with built environment that had never been done before. So essentially what we offer is to be able to capture assets. So when we talk about this, it's putting the digital product passport into the system, putting in information like global GreenTag certificate saying this product has this certificate, other pieces of documentation that go with that particular product, putting that all into the system to say, this is the product that is going into this building. Then from there, when it's actually installed on site, we use barcodes, QR codes, or RFID to identify that that is in fact what has been installed. So we're not just relying upon what the specification says, we're actually verifying on site. Then throughout the life cycle, you plan maintenance through the system to extend the life. And at the end of life, what our system does is it matches your supply, so your output of materials, furniture, whatever it may be, to the demand market. So who are the players out in the ecosystem that want the things that you've got? Now, that could be marketplaces. It could be people who want to receive donations, so charities, for example. It could be recyclers, or it could be returning back to the original supplier. So that's another thing, is that when you input anything onto our system, if there is a take back scheme attached to it, that asset will have that on its asset record saying this belongs to this take back scheme. And then when you come to dispose of that asset, you'll be able to see that you should contact that supplier and exercise the opportunity of allowing them to take back if that's something that you want to do. So it's basically this end-to-end approach. And that's where we also work with Aspire. So in that matching to diversion from landfill, what a lot of our clients like to do is export the information out of our system and then list that onto the Aspire marketplace. So list those materials onto the marketplace to be taken. Now, once that's all done through our system, we can report on the impacts. So what was the financial impact of taking this circular approach? What was the environmental impact and the social impact? And if anyone's got questions around the reporting, I can go into that a little further as well. Okay, so what do we like to call ourselves? We like to say that we're a circularity enabler. So we provide consultancy around all of the things that I've just said in terms of how do you implement circular economy into a built environment. We provide training. Now, the training can be to project managers, designers, but often it's also to the head contractors on site around like how do you undertake demolition for salvage? So if we want to be able to reuse products, we need to be able to dismantle and salvage them in a certain way. So how do you manage the logistics around that as well? These are all the things that we can teach. The other thing is project management and delivery. So say, for example, you've got a fit out and you don't have the resources in terms of people to be able to put everything onto an asset register, capture it, do a condition audit, maybe of your existing furniture or fit out, and then be able to do the matching and ensure that that actually happens, that things are diverted out to those third parties who are taking it. We can provide that delivery for you as well, or we can equip your teams to be able to do it. Which leads us onto the traceability hardware. So that comes through our partner Hardcat. Hardcat are an asset management firm based in Melbourne, and they're the partner that we built our platform with. So the next thing is the actual enterprise management system. So that's the platform I've been talking about, where we create the register, undertake the maintenance and diversion. And the last thing is our supplier directory, which I'll just show you very quickly. So a lot of people who maybe don't want to use our full asset management platform, they will still go to the directory because this is free and publicly available. Anyone can use it right now. So essentially in this directory, you can look at any type of asset that you have, and I'll just go to the most used one, which is furniture. So if I just click that, so I've got furniture. Now the action that I want to undertake in this case is to donate that furniture. But also if I want to specify or procure the furniture, I can actually go down to specify and procure or specify and procure used. Now, who's going to come up when I run this search function are organizations that we've vetted for circularity. So what we mean by this is that these are organizations who have the certificates that they should have, whether it's GreenTag, GECA, etc., for their products, but also it can be charities who, for example, take goods and then donate them to people who need them, or do repair, remanufacture, those sorts of things like cultivated, or it can be people like Aspire as well. So according to the search, these are the sorts of places that are going to come up for you. And then you run location and you can narrow it down to where you're located. So you can do that for specification or for end of life. And as I said, it's free, it's publicly available. And I could talk more about how we vet the people that are on it as well, if you're interested. So just jumping back to the presentation. So that was our circularity enablers. So what does it do for you? Like, what are the sorts of things that you might be looking for that you might come to us about? I'm not going to go through the whole list. You can see it there. But essentially, we're about traceability. We're about enablement of waste to landfill diversion. So trying to get to zero waste to landfill and doing that through our partners and through the delivery aspect, enabling you to do that. And the last thing is around the reporting. So if you're supplying to people who have to report to, the mandatory climate disclosures, or because they've made commitments in terms of their social responsibility or environmental responsibility, or if your organization has reporting requirements, then again, that's something else that you might want to talk to us about, is how can you use this process in order to get really useful data and get to that diversion from landfill. In our platform, we've also uploaded the neighbours data set for embodied carbon. So again, anything that you put into our platform by way of construction materials will actually show what that embodied carbon value is. And when it comes to fit outs, we're uploading as many EPDs as we possibly can and grabbing the embodied carbon values off those as well. So you can get that data in the system. It's already attached to the assets. Okay, so a few examples of projects that we've undertaken. So with the City of Casey in Victoria, here we were engaged to create a building material bank, so to create the register and to divert from landfill materials that were coming out of community centres, so like community buildings that the council owned. And in this case, the project was so successful that council have gone on to re-engage us to work on their policies. So we've been embedding circularity into their ESD policy, their procurement policies, and their disposal policies. So as you can see, we achieved 90% of fixtures and fittings being diverted from landfill. We also added 15 local suppliers onto our directory from this local area. And we've continued to work with council around how they can improve their circularity of their own assets and inventory. Okay, so this is a little bit of a different example that speaks to traceability. So this is one with our partner Hardcat, where in this case, Langer O'Rourke used the solution to be able to track and trace steel. And I know this is something that everyone's talking about at the moment. How can you track and trace these materials? So in this case, they were tracking it from the fabrication of the steel through supply, through construction to the site handover. So basically that was taking the things from the manufacturer and placing them on site and being able to say we've traced that steel so we know what it is and it's been quantified, but also that its technical specifications are verified. Where we would like to see this go is that RFIDs stay on the steel so that later when buildings or infrastructure are dismantled, maybe 20, 30 years from now, I'm sure the technology will have improved, but at least that RFID will still connect to the record for that particular asset. So it will still tell you what were the technical specifications of that steel. Okay. So next example is Adelaide Shores. So in this case, an entire suburb is sitting on the platform, and there it's being used to manage and maintain all of the built environment features within that precinct. So that allows Adelaide Shores, which is now called West Beach, to be able to practice sustainable land management. So this is more when you're looking at, say, for example, Green Building Council communities. You can use this platform to be able to manage the assets within that community, and that could potentially be something that you put towards your innovation points or your leadership points. Okay, and last but not least, so this is an example of a project where we worked with Stockland, and we continue to work with Stockland. So in this case, we ran a successful pilot on a number of retail tenancies. So this was more coming back to the fit out space. In this case, 100% of the furnishings and fixtures were diverted from landfill. We also had a social impact value of greater than $40,000 from one tenancy alone. And this was a small tenancy. It was just a travel agent tenancy. So that was pretty massive to get that sort of impact, particularly from the social side of it. In addition to this, with Stockland, we've gone on to work not just on retail spaces, but also on their commercial spaces as well. I'm really looking at that diversion from landfill, but also how can we embed traceability through the use of the barcodes, QR codes, and RFIDs to allow their head contractors better tracing on site. So what I mean by that is, if we allocate furniture to a charity, the head contractor can use the barcodes on those particular items of furniture to say, yes, I'm giving the right thing to the charity, or yes, I'm retaining the right thing on site. So it's about that traceability on site as well, to ensure that they're not removing anything from site that they shouldn't, and that the items are going out to the right people. So it's kind of that transaction traceability. Okay, so recent showcases. So most people probably be familiar with the Circular Fit Outs Toolkit for Offices, which was created by Orican for the Better Building Partnership. So we were subcontracted by Orican to work on this, providing content that went into the document, also facilitation during their workshops. And we have a number of our case studies in this document as well. The next one is Built and Choreo put together this building disassembly plan, and in it they've showcased FTD Circular powered by Hardcat, which is our asset management platform. Again, we love working with these guys, absolute innovators, just fantastic, and such great supporters of social enterprise and small business in this space. And last of all, recently we published a case study and white paper with one of our clients, Project One. And this was around traceability of materials and creating these material banks. So a fit out as a material bank, and how you can then valorize those assets through building in the traceability and the register from the very beginning of the project. Okay, so that's it from me. Basically, what I always say is that we share your vision of a new business as usual, where we no longer pay to destroy our valuable resources in ways that further cost us financially, environmentally, and socially. So we look forward to having opportunities to work with all of you. Any project that you want to look at or any further questions that you've got, please reach out and talk to me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions during this webinar as well. So thank you.
Thanks, Vanessa. That was very insightful, and it's great to sort of see some of the great projects and that you've obviously undertaken a lot with your partners. I've got a quick question from, the partners or the projects that you've done. What's your most significant, or one you got the most joy out of? Good way of putting it.
Funnily enough, one of our most significant and joyful projects predates FTD Circular, and it shows where it comes from in our DNA. So there was a cafe that we designed in Sydney, so it was Cafe Fit Out, where 100% of all the materials that were put into the new fit out were actually diverted from landfill. So basically, we took tiles that were destined to landfill that were excess stock, paints, decorative items, you name it, like the furniture, the whole lot. So essentially, the brief from the client was, because they were a sustainability focused cafe, they said, we really, we want to target a low budget, so that helps, but we want to create a zero waste fit out. And at that time, nobody really understood embodied carbon, to be honest. Like, it wasn't really something they were targeting, but they wanted to make it as low impact as possible in terms of the environment. So the whole fit out was just from reclaimed, saved, diverted materials. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Is that cafe still going?
No, unfortunately, they closed during COVID. They were a COVID, what do you call it? A COVID victim, unfortunately. So very sorry to see that, but it happened to a lot of hospitality premises, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Yeah, I've read another stat. I think it was today about how many businesses closed during COVID, but obviously it's a conversation for another day. We'll
Yeah. I
get
only wish
past
I
that.
could still send you there. Unfortunately, we had a crisis. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, next time we're in Sydney, we should, yeah, we'll go find another sustainable coffee shop and we'll go there and have a coffee from there.
Well, we do
Uh,
have a restaurant at the Park Royal at Darling Harbour, which is a sustainable fit out. And 10 years later, that fit out is still there, and they've hardly had to do anything to it because the materials were so durable. So we'll go and have coffee there.
yeah, perfect, perfect. I
Thanks.
know we've got a customer of ours that works in the CDS sort
Mm-hmm.
of environment, and they joined the platform and yeah, weren't quite sure what they were going to try to get out of it. Sort of similar sort of case study, but
Mm.
basically they just opened up a new sort of factory outlet, and yeah, they end up getting, well, I think it was all furniture, stand-up
Yeah,
desks, fitted the whole office out with items through the spine, saved themselves about $20,000. And
there you
you know,
go.
I think organisations and what they're going to join and what they're going to
Yes.
use it for, it's something totally different, right? So, but yeah, sort of that's, you see that innovation from that small business, it really kicks things off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
we need more clients to give designers the permission to procure reused. That's the thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the most
Mhm.
important. The most important. But what I'll do is, thanks for that, Vanessa.
That's right.
We'll touch base towards the end. But what I'll do is I'll hand over to David. Do you want to share your screen, Dave, and go through some of your information you want to share, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Let me know when let me know when you see it.
Yeah, all good.
Okay. Well, hi everybody. That was fantastic to understand all of that, Vanessa. Really impressive. Thank you. Um, really, the heart of what we do is to try and bring services to the market that designers and the industry needs beyond just, kind of like a pass-fail tag. So everything we do is rated. We have the world's only healthiness in use rating as part of our product health declarations. Also, the only standard asthma and allergy sensitive assessment with a formal standard attached to it that's externally peer reviewed. We have the only product level modern slavery statement. We have the world's only nature positive certification process that includes both circular economy metrics and a benefit addendum to our EPD. So life cycle benefit analysis, we'll touch on that a bit later. Those programs have recognitions in all of the global green building rating systems, and they have awards, and it's incredibly robust. And I'll explain that, the reasons for that, in a moment. But ultimately, from the industry's point of view, what we do is we help the industry, kind of cut to the chase. They can choose good, better, best, world leading type products by the rating systems, and using the website and different data source feeds, reduce time and obviously risk. So, you know, and one of the things I'll say up front is we're just finalizing a big digitalization process. First, or hopefully, or worst case, beginning of second quarter next year, we'll actually see that all of our data feeds go digital, and we'll be able to handshake digitally with any platform that wants to handshake with us. We're already handshaking with a lot of platforms now, and we do that, by various means. But ultimately, what we're seeking to achieve is, effectively uh, protecting living systems, helping the industry create circular resource flows, but more importantly, really, taking action to reduce the impact on nature and to improve the health of interior environments. And we do this through product certification and product transparency and education. At the very heart of what we do is we know exactly what's in each product, where it came from, how it's made, and what's going to happen to it at the end of its life and beyond. And, you know, we actually help ensure that the claims that are being made in the marketplace are accurate, they're scientifically assessed, and they can be trusted. So ultimately, that's really the only way that purchasers and specifiers can be sure and build trust in the brands that take the time and the effort to uh, be transparent, provide the information, and allow it to be assessed. You know, in doing so, that information then is the ability to help the industry work with the green building and infrastructure rating tools, whether that's fit out or buildings or infrastructure. And we verify that the products are what they say they are, but more importantly, sometimes it's sometimes the products are even better than the manufacturers are aware of themselves. And amongst this whole sort of waterfall or sort of tidal wave of greenwash that is around there, we essentially help to eliminate greenwash, because not only do we do that at the product level with the certification, but we also check the manufacturer's marketing and their websites to ensure that they are in accordance with consumer law and with ISO 14021, which is the self-declared declaration standard. We've got a lot of different services, and underpinning those is 3 separate sets of standards. Ultimately, I'm not going to get into a deep explanation about the family of services and products, but just to say that every one of these services has a particular use and more likely a particular credit and rating scheme that it attaches to. So even though it's complex, there's a reason for them. We've been well recognized. We have a very, kind of well-trusted and well-developed, sense of brand trust in the marketplace at commercial and consumer level. And one of the reasons is because we are externally certified ourselves to be able to doing what we're doing. We have 3 lots of external certification come in to make sure we do what we say we're going to do for quality. The Type 1 Eco Label standard, ISO 14024, and conformance assessment under 17065, all externally certified and verified. That's why we call it the world's most robust, because to our knowledge, there isn't another eco label that has that level of external verification, plus the fact that each of our assessments are actually externally peer reviewed by consultant toxicologists, for instance. We're currently certifying over 20,000 products for more than 300 companies with factories in 22 different countries. So, even though we're locally based, we have a global footprint and are working with manufacturers from all over the world. The rating tools that we have recognition in are, the sort of the common ones that you'd be familiar with: Green Star, Infrastructure Sustainability Lead, WELL, but also EarthCheck that operates in the hospitality, sustainable tourism. And more recently, we recognised our product health declarations were recognised for the Living Building Challenge in Australia and New Zealand. As I said, a number of different services. Ultimately, a product health declaration with health rate and asthma and allergy, that's one single service. Likewise, with EPDs and benefit addendums and carbon rate, that's another single service. We do claims verification. We do best environmental practice PVC verification for the Vinyl Council and Green Building Council. And we have a whole of sustainability rating where there's no lot. Sorry?
Yeah, David, I think you just froze for about 5 seconds there. It's all good.
Okay. The green rate is a whole of sustainability rating that doesn't involve life cycle analysis. So it's whole of life and whole of sustainability, but without life cycle analysis. And our LCA rate is a comparative life cycle analysis based rating of the product that compares the product, every product in the category to the same benchmark product. So you can actually ask the question, what's the most sustainable flooring, and get a scientifically valid answer. Our most recent one is Nature Positive, and I'll talk about that in more detail shortly, so we won't go into that in great detail right now. But earlier actually late last year, we got recognition as an eco-platform member for our EPD program. It means we're actually the first Australian eco-program operator. There is another operator in the market, but they're actually a sub-operator to one of the people that we're recognized at the same level of. So ultimately, our EPD program is an internationally recognized EPD, and we're just about to launch a whole new portal for that will invite other EPD practitioners in to register their EPDs with the Global GreenTag program. So just sort of jumping into the individual services to look at them a little bit more in detail. Our product health declaration is a transparency report. It comes with a health rate rating, and that health rate rating, when appropriate, gets an asthma and allergy sensitive tag, and we see the lungs swap. From the green tag, we end up with a set of sort of inverted tree/lungs on the logo to indicate that has gone that extra distance to be recognized. So ultimately, this is a full transparency report. It looks at things, all of the ingredient hazards down to 100 parts per million. And it looks at both the ingredient hazard, worker health, and in-use healthiness. And the health rate, bronze health, silver health, gold health, and platinum health, is the in-use healthiness rating that is world unique, and is also recognized by Green Star. The PhD itself is recognized by Green Star WELL and LEED. So this is, essentially a manufacturer's global passport to all of the different green building rating schemes. We have a product level modern slavery declaration. The products are assessed on both the risk of modern slavery and the quality of the data that is used to assess that risk. And a product can improve from year on year by either improving their modern slavery risk or improving their data quality, or both. It uses the 10 criteria in the Australian legislation that have to be tracked, and scores both data quality and modern slavery risk independently, weights them, adds them up, and gives it, in addition, an overall weighted score and an overall risk level. So that's a unique, it comes with its own client-facing tag as well. So, I mean, those are the, I'm presenting really the unique product certifications that we have. And late last year, we launched Nature Positive. And the reason that we launched Nature Positive as an independent certification is because of the importance of the circular economy, but of the tendency for the circular economy to avoid or miss the fact that a key aspect of this is to regenerate natural systems. And I think they do that because they assume that by doing less bad, they're being restorative, but that's not the case. To be restorative and to be regenerative, you have to be able to put more back than's taken out, take existing pollution, remove it, take barren ground and rewild it, and improve biodiversity at all levels, including subsoil. So it actually poses the question, why aren't we doing this? And the answer is because we don't have the metrics. When was the last time you saw an EPD for a tree or a garden or a wetland? They don't exist. Why? Because LCA only measures, life cycle analysis was how we measure these things, only measures negatives. You cannot go out and use current life cycle analysis to figure out which brand of tree takes more oxygen out of the atmosphere. You can measure its carbon, can't measure its other benefits. You literally can't use LCA to measure the impact of a tree because there are no negatives unless you take into account maybe a cracked pavement here or there. So ultimately, what we need to do is move on to a system that takes the impact negatives and then flips them and has positive metrics as well. So we've been starting to use a benefit methodology developed by the EVA Institute, and it ultimately gives us the ability to create a ratio, and we use that in our nature positive assessment. So impact over benefit, if it's a fraction less than 1, then it's the product's having more impact than benefit. If it's if the fraction leads to multiples of 1, then it's generating more benefit than impacts. And we use that that base concept to integrate and launch the world's first and only currently nature positive product certification, transparency report, and benefit report. And we're really saying this is taking the circular economy beyond where it is now. So we call it a beyond circularity assessment system, because it is tracking the circularity of products, but it's tracking them in the way that everything to do with that product is actually being properly measured and tracked. So not only are the impacts being tracked, but the benefits are being tracked. Not only are they based on resource savings, but also on avoided impacts on nature, and also on social benefit and indigenous benefit in supply chains. There's a whole series of just 7 overall areas, but 10 indicators. And there's a separate report on every indicator, as well as rolled up summaries. So you have a series of overall metrics: circularity, human and environmental toxicology, life cycle impacts, life cycle benefits, biodiversity, equity, fairness, safety, social and indigenous benefit, and innovation. And looking at that, you might go, my goodness, that's an awful lot of information, an awful lot of work to get through. But the reality is that we are already doing, the indicators that we're using are already coming from, 60% of them are coming from work we already do, and from information we already have on file about products. So it's really not that big a stretch, apart from the reporting aspect, which we're in the process of automating to try and save costs. But ultimately, we are really moving towards using existing indicators like the World Building Council for Sustainable Development's CTI indicator, or the Ellen MacArthur's Circular Materials Indicator, CMI indicator. We'll probably, at the moment, we're just using CTI, but we'll probably start integrating CMI as well, because different organizations are using one or the other. Anyway, suffice it to say, the bulk of the work that we're already doing in life cycle analysis, in nature positive declarations, is already underway, and lots of manufacturers already have most of it. We just need to fill in the gaps. So a really quick summary run through about what one looks like. Obviously, as a cover, series of tables of contents. You've got the manufacturer's story, a product description, a summary, then a whole lot of series of summary reports, and then a whole lot of detailed reports. There's a front summary page that looks like that, sort of looks like a bit like a regular certificate, and it gives you bar chart indicator where you've got negatives or positives in the supply chain, and then a series of summary indicators with actual data attached, a full product health declaration, full EPD, but then also a benefit addendum. The benefit addendum, all the benefits are mapped to the UN SDGs, and there's a full analysis of the outcomes and the different improvements that it generates, a modern slavery risk assessment, and then that's taken to an assessment stage. Now, the assessment stage is confidential. It can't be used in the marketplace. it's basically a distance to zero indicator. How far have they got to go to take it to zero? That is nature neutral. And beyond that, we use high integrity nature-based solutions. That is nature regenerating, so ecological regeneration systems that also happen to generate carbon sequestration. The manufacturer makes a commercial decision about how far past zero it wants to take the product. And once they've purchased the nature-based certificates, and we've verified those and verified the standards under which they were done and the project outcomes are actually happening, then they get a nature positive declaration and assessment report. So thanks very much, and I'll leave it there.
Excellent. Thank you, David. That was really great. I've actually learned a lot more around what you're doing and sort of the offering to the market. So it's really important. Obviously, also too, just quickly, I see that you're in a few markets. Obviously, the UK, the US. What's sort of the next sort of market you're seeing that you're getting a bit of interest from, or some of the hot sort of areas coming in?
Well, believe it or not, China. We have a very high level licensee in China, sales and marketing licensee, who's interested in actually taking, once we get our assessment automation or process automation up and running in the new year, the likelihood is they will become full-blown franchisees next year to actually take the assessment system into China. And that's a pretty exciting move. We still retain all the quality assurance and certification capabilities, but to have an assessment team actually based in China is something that we're really looking forward to. And our licensee in China is a really high level company. It's owned by 5 industry associations, so in the building sector. So it's a very high level sort of representative. Yeah.
Good. Tough market, but great market to be in. So thanks, David. Thanks for that. And what I'll do now is I'll just go through a bit of information about Aspire, and we'll just sort of talk about a little bit what we do. So basically for those on the call, so Aspire is a marketplace that helps businesses find sustainable homes for their surplus materials. Right. So what we've actually got is we've got over about 200 different commodities that obviously can be exchanged on the platform. And that also too comes from information that we got from CSIRO and Data61 when they actually developed the algorithm back in the day. We also too we're ISO verified to be reporting on embodied carbon savings, and also too a lot with what David was sort of mentioning and Vanessa. Like there's a lot of ESG alignment, and a lot of these tools when they work together, they can really help these organisations hit a lot of these targets, which is really important. So I'll talk a little bit about what we do. So as part of the offering that we have to a lot of our businesses, obviously, is we do a lot of circular economy consulting. So we come into their organisations, see what their baseline is, and see how we can sort of help them achieve to their next level or next goal. And also too, as you know, we sort of similar to like Vanessa too. She's got a platform. We obviously use our digital platform to help drive these decision-making connections with these businesses. We've got over about 4,500 businesses on the platform that use the platform to obviously to procure or to get rid of assets they don't need anymore. And one of the main things, it's really important about that is to obviously train these businesses around, how the circular economy works, opportunities, and how to actually have a look at their value or supply chain and rethink what the next step is, to be doing that part of it. We've got obviously too, a part of Aspire, we've got a tool called Aspire Plus, which gives businesses, an efficiency audit and gives them a baseline so they can sort of hit these targets to move forward. And that's the most important part of it, as obviously like David and Vanessa can probably can mention also too, when it comes to these businesses, it's, you can't really hit them over the head with anything. You've got to get them to a point where they're going to accept what we're trying to sort of show them and obviously show the benefit for their longevity of their businesses moving forward. So a few things about us, like Vanessa too, we're a social enterprise certified, which is great. We're also B Corp, for those who don't know who B Corp are. They're an organisation that help us, align what we do with our corporate values, along with our staff and a lot of the business that we work with. And also too, we've just recently gone through an RMIT education sort of certification around the sustainability and climate-related financial reporting. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but we're starting to get a lot of organisations now that are really trying to provide that data, that information to these organisations, especially for their customers and their supply chain, which I'll talk a little bit more in a moment about. So I'll just go through this quickly. So this is a bit of the dashboard or the platform that you can sort of see. We've got 5 main metrics here that we measure. We've actually just added a landfill diversion calculator and also landfill levy savings, which obviously works from where the asset starts and where it sort of finishes. And it works off obviously regional data as well as metropolitan landfill levy costings. And one of the cool things that we've got here that sort of like we sort of help the businesses with is obviously the revenue, how much they're earning or saving by using the platform. That's quite, it's important. Like basically back in the day, I used to think it was about time and money to help these businesses, but it's not at all. It's about the efficiencies and margins. So unless you can start streamlining their organisations and improve their efficiency, that's where you're going to get them to make sort of that change. And that's how we can sort of step in and educate or work with our customers to do that. So this is some of the impact that we've sort of created over the last few years now. You can sort of see there on the right, that's sort of our impact certificates that we can sort of generate for our organisations. That sort of goes down and lets them know what the tonnes transacted, the embodied carbon savings, and a few things off the back of that. And also too, one of the key things that we're really proud of is we've just pretty much almost hit 700,000 tonnes of assets that we've diverted from landfill through the platform. So that's, that's nothing to sneeze at. We're actually quite proud of it. That's actually constantly going up on a daily basis. So I'll just go through a couple of case studies here. So this is one of our customers up in the Sunshine Coast. They had a lot of rain, as they do up past Brisbane. They had a lot of roads that lifted, got dislodged because of the flooding. And with that, they got a very expensive quote to actually get that taken away and disposed of. But actually by using the platform and using our services, they managed to relocate those assets within a business they already had or some land or an aerodrome that they actually managed. So instead of having to pay, several hundred thousands of dollars to get rid of it, they actually put it on the platform and connected for an organisation within it to take it. So again, really great initiative by the council there, but also too did a tremendous amount of economic savings to the org. And here's another just little case study that we've got here. So this organisation now, I think they've saved themselves about $2.2 million since by using the platform, which is fantastic. But also too, one of the key parts to that is they didn't get to that point overnight. So this was a gradual process. We've been working with them now for about 4 years, and it's constantly trying to engage their network, engage their staff members to sort of see what we can do for that circular approach, but also use the platform to sort of drive that data and drive that impact. One thing, I really want to make note on is obviously for those who aren't aware, on January 1st, in a month's time actually, this mandatory climate-related financial disclosures will actually come into play. You can sort of see down there on the bottom left, the groups. There's sort of 3 different groups, the size of the organisations that's actually going to apply to. But one thing that a lot of people aren't really taking into consideration is if your customer or someone that you work with, it fits into that group 1, they're going to be asking you sometime in the next probably 6 months to be providing information and data around their mandatory climate financial related disclosures, right? So, and now we're working with organisations to see, okay, well, instead of waiting for them to ask, why don't you get on the front foot? Because at the end of the day, if someone else is similar is actually getting to this point already and we're not, or you're not, there's an opportunity there or there's a risk there of obviously losing that customer. So, it's obviously the reporting is a really important aspect to it, but also too, you can see there on the right what we're actually trying to do around it. Obviously with the scenario analysis, trying to get that risk down to 1.5 degrees, and obviously to, you know, helping these organisations comply to a lot of these mandatory reporting that are going to come out too, right? So it's really important that you sort of come in and you start thinking about why you need to do this, what it actually is, and when it's going to apply to you. And don't think that a Group 3, if you size your business as Group 3, it's not going to happen for another 2 years. Unfortunately, it won't. It'll actually, you know, you'll be starting to get asked about a lot of this information. So it's better to be on the front foot. And we sort of work with organisations to sort of help them with their data management, but also to get assessment ready, so to speak. So what I'll do, I'll see a couple of questions that come through. We've only got a few minutes to go, but what I'll do is I'll stop sharing. And we'll have a look at those questions. But I've also too got a couple of questions for the team. Just let me have a look. Let me bring those questions up. So one from Steve Morris. Dave, can you share some examples of the products that you could buy nature positive without offsetting?
Yeah, so I mean, the first product that we certified was a Thermal Haven nest boxes, and they use recycled WeatherTex, waste offcuts from WeatherTex. It's a thermally broken, ventilated cavity nest box that mimics natural tree trunk hollows. And the first, it was the first product we certified, and it came out 151% nature positive, no offsets, because its purpose is to bring forward by, 80 to 100 years, the time when hollows are available in forest regeneration, because it would normally take a tree to mature and grow and then die and then rot before those hollows are created. So, and even as of this morning, I introduced that product to Greenfleet, and they've just announced that the first 50 have been successfully installed in some of their forests. And one of another one is we're working with a company who are recycling PVC billboard material. So the company goes out, installs it, pulls it down, brings it back, and then the two polymers in those materials are recovered, and then they're in the process of building the factory that will remanufacture that back into billboard material. So that those products that have that inherent circularity, but more particularly products that have a benefit in nature once they exist, that's where you're going to be able to find products that have inherent nature positivity without offsets.
Yeah,
and it's important to understand that when we talk about offsets, we're not just talking about tree planting, we're talking about ecological restoration system. There may well be trees in that process, but it's not about tree planting. It's about restoring ecological processes, which in the process also absorb carbon and restore forest as well.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Steve, for the question. I've got a final question for Vanessa, so we can just finish up on. Looking at next year, what would be on your wish list, Vanessa, for 2025, especially New South Wales? What's going on there? Anything in particular?
Well, certainly we're looking forward to seeing the mandatory climate disclosures coming, because I think that's a bit of a game changer for everyone. And also the GBCA working through the updates to the Green Star mechanisms, particularly the interior fit out one coming in, and also communities being updated as well, because we're seeing a lot of interest from engineering firms who are trying to help their clients to meet reporting requirements and Green Star requirements. And it looks like the way that communities is going in particular, it's really going to work to support circular economy. So I think that it's these sorts of requirements from either regulators or those who set standards that really drag or push or motivate everybody else to change. So that's what's exciting for us. I can't wait for those things to come out, because I think those will be real game changers.
Yeah, fantastic. We're at the top of the hour, team. So again, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much, David and Vanessa, for obviously sharing a lot around your organisations and what you're doing. It's super exciting, especially in this sphere. Really looking forward to what's going to be happening next year. So, so for all those who joined, thank you very much for attending. There's everyone's contact details there, guys. So please, yeah, scan the QR codes. It's got everyone's information, and please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, David. For the next, obviously, only 3 more weeks of obviously the working year to go. So wish you all the best. Wish you all a safe Christmas, safe break, and looking forward to catching up with you. If not before, definitely in the new year. So thank you very much, guys, and thank you very much for attending, everyone.
Thanks to you also,
Thanks,
Cam.
Cameron.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Good
Bye.
to see you again, Vanessa.
Yeah, likewise. See you, David.